Welcome to the Defense and Aerospace Report. I'm Vago Muradian here at the Air Force Association's annual Airspace Cyber Conference and Trade Show outside Washington, D.C., the #1 gathering of U.S. Air Force leaders from around the world. Our coverage here is sponsored on this 72nd anniversary of the United States Air Force by L3 Harris and Leonardo DRS, and it's our honor to be talking to the man who sits at Curtis LeMay's desk, General Tim Ray, who is the chief of the U.S. Air Force, or the commander of the Global Strike Command. Sir, thanks very much for joining us. Renaissance of bombers. I think everybody recognizes that in a great power competition, that's an asymmetric advantage the United States has. As bombers are ranging now more around the world and more unpredictable schedules, how do you sustain this force, this forward, particularly in the Pacific where you really have a tyranny of distance?
Yeah, the first thing we do is we think about the entire planet all the time. So when General Hyten brought me on, he asked me to be the JFAC and the Air Component Commander. We think daily about all the problem sets of all the primary players. We look at all the theaters, and we certainly weigh the requirements between what we have today and what we would do for STRATCOM support. So I allocate based on the highest priority. The good news for the Pacific is there's 6 bombers at Guam right now, and so we leverage those to great effect, and those support General Brown quite a bit. We like to work in what's called the Bomber Task Force footprint, and those are varying sizes and short, brief deployments. The beauty of those is it makes a very small cross-functional team. It's very tactical. They're out there for just a little bit of time. They're really, in Europe, they're very well tailored to the messaging that we want to do. There's a very dynamic nature to them, and everybody comes home ready. And that's the beauty of these types of engagements is they're not a readiness tax, they're a readiness builder. And so that's what we like about them most. The last one that we did into Central Command, everybody walked in the room at 7:30 in the morning on Monday, not knowing, and 51 hours later we had a B-52 landing at LUD.
Wow. Do you have enough bombers, right? I mean, the debate on B-21 always was like, hey, if we can make it on cost, we can buy more than 100. But at the end of the day, everybody's recognizing that range, reach, and power projection is the name of the game, and that these bombers are going to carry weapons that be able to outstick adversaries. How many more bombers do you need on a realistic basis? Is that number closer to 150, for example, than 100?
So the original bomber roadmap was not a fiscally informed, or was more fiscally informed, wasn't a strategy informed, and we're morphing now beyond that. The current plan on the books is 75 B-52s and a minimum of 100 B-21s. Now, not my number, and to be clear what that is, we have gone through the discussion on the Air Force we need, the numbers of squadrons, that grows. Certainly you have the outside studies that were asked by the Congress, and it was in the above 200 range, 225 I think was one of them, et cetera. So you can see that you're always going to be underinvested in long-range strike based on where we're going. And so we'll work to do the best we can to maximize the fleet we have.
Last question on nuclear modernization. There's a lot of debate. Obviously, we have the ICBM, the GBSD recapitalization. B-61 is going apace, but now folks are talking about the necessity for, as the Nuclear Posture Review stated, a low-yield weapon. There's some debate about the importance of that. Why is it so important the United States have a low-yield nuclear weapon as part of that continuum from the big weapons all the way to something smaller?
So how that employs is really kind of outside my command. And so the opinion on that particular capability really is outside my reach. What I can say is this: our triad lives in the context of the Chinese, the Russian triad, and in the minds of all of our alliances. And so as you manage the capability, it lives in that context. You know, no two ways about it. So as we think about what ours is, the Russians and the Chinese all both modernized, and the Russians are adding capabilities beyond that. We are simply doing a one-for-one replacement. We know we have a very good game plan for all the acquisition. I'm very pleased with the quality of all the programs, and so at the end of the day, this is simply getting us to a sustainable level of technology and capability that's going to carry us through where we need to go.
General Ray, thanks very much, Commander of the Global Strike Command, and by the way, happy birthday, sir.
All right, thanks much.